I bought this property 3 years ago because of the Treehouse. Stupid reason to drop 200 grand on a fixer-upper in rural Oregon. But the moment I saw it through the branches, I knew I'd end up signing. Previous owner built it for his daughter back in the 90s. Solid construction. Platform maybe 12 feet up in an old Douglas fir, walls made from actual lumber, not just plywood scraps, peaked roof with real shingles, even a small window with glass still intact. I'd been living up here on and off for the past week before everything went to hell. Not for any survivalist reason. Just liked it. Quiet. Away from the bills piling up on my kitchen counter and the voicemails from my sister asking when I was going to get my shit together. That was a week ago. Tuesday. I'd brought up some camping gear. A cooler with beer and sandwich stuff. A battery radio because the previous owner had somehow run electrical up here decades ago, but I never trusted it enough to actually use. Spent my days reading paperbacks I'd been meaning to finish for years and watching squirrels argue over territory in the neighboring oak. Nights got cold, but I had a decent sleeping bag. It was the kind of voluntary isolation that felt good. Felt like I was making a choice instead of just drifting. I didn't hear about the virus until Thursday morning. The radio had been playing classic rock, some Springsteen song I half remembered from high school, when it cut out mid-chorus and went to static. I was about to switch it off when a voice came through. Emergency broadcast, not the automated kind. A real person, woman, sounded young. He's stumbling over words like she was reading a script for the first time. Reports of violent outbreaks in Portland. Stay indoors. Avoid contact with anyone exhibiting aggressive behavior or signs of infection. Symptoms include high fever, bleeding from eyes and mouth, extreme aggression, loss of cognitive function. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Military personnel are being deployed. Do not attempt to travel. Stay in your homes. Lock your doors. More information to follow. Then Springsteen came back on like nothing happened. I sat there on the edge of the platform with my legs dangling, holding my half-eaten apple, waiting for the song to cut out again. It didn't. I figured it was some kind of prank, maybe a War of the Worlds situation, some radio station trying to go viral. Portland was 40 minutes away. My town, Richfield, population 3,200, was the kind of place where the biggest news story last month was the high school football team finally winning a game. We didn't have violent outbreaks. We had bake sales and arguments about whether the new Dollar General was ruining small-town character. I went back to my book. Read another chapter about a detective hunting a serial killer in Seattle, realized I wasn't absorbing any of it, kept seeing the same sentences twice. The woman's voice on the radio kept replaying in my head. The way she'd said, loss of cognitive function, like she was trying real hard not to say something else. Around noon, I climbed down to piss behind the shed. That's when I heard the sirens, multiple sirens, fire trucks maybe, or police coming from town. They got louder, closer, then faded east toward the highway. I stood there listening until they were gone, then heard another set coming from the opposite direction. The back of my neck got cold despite the sun beating down. I stayed up in the treehouse the rest of Thursday, telling myself I was being paranoid, but unable to shake the feeling that something was wrong. My phone had 1 bar of service up here on a good day. I tried calling my sister in Boise, but it went straight to voicemail. Tried again an hour later, same thing. Checked the news on my phone, but the connection was too weak to load anything except headlines. Something about CDC investigating outbreak, something about National Guard deployment. Then my phone died, because of course I hadn't brought the charger up. Friday morning, the radio started doing the emergency broadcast thing every hour. Same message, different voice each time. By the 3rd broadcast, they'd added symptoms to watch for. Bites, scratches, fever, above 104. Violent behavior, inability to speak coherently. They kept saying to stay inside, avoid contact, wait for further instructions. They didn't say what was actually happening, didn't use the word zombie or infected or anything that made sense of it. Just kept saying outbreak and containment and stay calm. I wasn't calm. I was sitting 12 feet up in a treehouse with 3 warm beers, half a loaf of bread, some peanut butter, and no real plan. My house was right there, 50 yards away through the trees. White paint peeling, gutters full of Douglas fir needles I'd been meaning to clean for 6 months. I could see my truck in the driveway, could see the front door I'd left unlocked because who the hell was going to rob me out here? That's when I heard it. Not sirens, screaming. Faint at first, coming from the direction of town, maybe a mile away where the Hendersons lived with their 4 kids and constantly barking border collie. Not the playful screaming of children or even the startled yelp of someone who'd seen a spider. This was raw, desperate, the kind of sound that doesn't feel like it should come from a human throat. It went on for maybe 10 seconds. Stopped. Started again, different voice, closer. I grabbed the binoculars I'd brought for bird watching, something my ex-girlfriend got me for Christmas 2 years ago that I'd never actually used properly. Scanned the road. Couldn't see much through the trees, but caught movement. People running. 3 of them looked like, sprinting up Old Mill Road toward the highway. One of them fell, and the other 2 didn't stop. Then I saw why they were running. Distance made it hard to see clearly, but there were more people following them. 5 or 6 at least. Moving wrong, not running exactly, more like a lurching sprint, all jerky movements and no coordination. One of them was wearing what looked like a bathrobe, flapping open as they moved. Another was a kid, couldn't have been more than 12. Moving just as fast as the adults, but with this horrible sideways limp. The person who'd fallen tried to get up, didn't make it. The group behind caught up, and I had to look away because even from this distance I could tell what was happening wasn't something I wanted burned into my memory. The screaming started up again. Got worse. Then stopped very suddenly. I dropped the binoculars and just sat there breathing hard, hands shaking, on it trying to make my brain accept what I'd just seen. It couldn't be real. Things like that didn't happen. Not here. Not in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, where the most exciting thing that happened was sometimes seeing a black bear going through someone's garbage. But the radio kept broadcasting, and more screaming started up from different directions. And I could smell smoke now, coming from town, thick and dark, the kind of smoke that meant structure fire, not brush fire. I made myself wait until I couldn't hear any more screaming. Maybe 2 hours. Sat there listening to the emergency broadcast cycle through its useless information, watching smoke rise above the tree line, counting the crows that kept circling and landing and taking off again like they couldn't figure out what to do with all the new carrion. Going down to the house felt like the stupidest thing I could possibly do. Every survival instinct I had said stay up here, stay hidden, wait it out. But I had no food except peanut butter and stale bread. No water except what was left in my canteen, maybe 20 ounces. No real supplies. If this thing lasted more than a couple days, I'd be screwed. I climbed down slowly, every step on the wooden ladder making me wince at the creak. Stood at the base of the tree listening. Birds were still singing, which seemed wrong somehow. Shouldn't they know something was off? Shouldn't nature react to this? The walk to my house was 50 yards. Felt like 50 miles. I kept stopping, listening, looking around for movement. The woods were still. Too still, maybe. No squirrels chattering, no rustle of deer moving through underbrush. Just wind in the branches and my own breathing too loud in my ears. My front door was exactly how I'd left it. Unlocked. Slightly ajar because the frame was warped and it never closed quite right. I stood on the porch for a full minute, hand on the doorknob, listening for any sound from inside. Nothing. I pushed it open and the familiar smell of my house hit me. Coffee grounds and dust and the faint mildew smell from the basement I'd never fixed. Normal smells. Safe smells. I moved fast once I was inside. Didn't let myself think too much about what I was doing. Went straight to the kitchen and started grabbing supplies. Canned goods from the pantry. Soup, beans, tuna, vegetables I'd bought months ago, meaning to eat healthier and never touched. Crackers, peanut butter, the new jar, not the one already open. I found a cardboard box under the sink and started loading it. Grabbed the can opener because I'd forgotten that first and nearly missed it. Water bottles from the garage, as many as I could fit. Found an old backpack in the hall closet and started stuffing it with more supplies. I was in the bathroom grabbing toilet paper and first aid kit when I heard the sound. Thumping. Coming from outside. Rhythmic, getting closer. Not footsteps exactly, more like something being dragged and dropped. Drag thump, drag thump, drag thump. I froze, toilet paper roll in one hand, listening. It was coming from the front of the house, getting louder, closer. Then it stopped right outside the front door, the door I'd left wide open. I moved to the bathroom doorway and peered down the hall. Could see through to the living room and the rectangle of daylight from the open front door. A shadow moved across it. Something standing on the porch. I couldn't see what it was, but I could hear breathing. Wet, rattling breathing like someone drowning on dry land. Then it stepped into view. Old Larry from down the road. Had to be him. Same build, same worn Carhartt jacket he wore everywhere, same white hair. But something was very wrong with the way he stood. Tilted too far forward like he was about to fall, but didn't. One leg dragging behind him, foot turned completely sideways. That was the thumping I'd heard. His face was the worst part. I could see it clearly in the daylight. Covered in something dark and wet. Mouth hanging open. Eyes open too, but not looking at anything, just staring straight ahead at nothing. He stood there swaying slightly. I stopped breathing. Didn't move. Prayed he wouldn't come inside. Larry took a step forward. The dragging leg caught on the threshold and he stumbled, caught himself on the doorframe with both hands. The sound of his palms hitting the wood was loud, solid. He stayed like that, bent forward, hands on the frame, making that awful wet breathing sound. I was still holding the toilet paper. My backpack was in the hall where I'd dropped it. The box of supplies was in the kitchen. Everything I needed to survive was scattered through the house, and I was trapped in the bathroom with a zombie version of my neighbor 15 feet away. Larry pushed off the doorframe and took another step inside. Then another, moving into my living room with that horrible dragging walk. I watched him knock into the coffee table, sending old magazines sliding to the floor, or he didn't react, just kept moving, turning now, heading toward the kitchen. I had maybe 10 seconds while his back was to me. I moved, grabbed the backpack, slung it over one shoulder, ran as quietly as I could toward the kitchen. Larry was at the far end near the fridge, bumping into the counter, turning around. I grabbed the box of supplies and ran for the door. Didn't make it quiet. The box was heavier than I expected, and I stumbled on the front porch steps, cans clattering. I heard the breathing change behind me. Heard the drag thump speed up. Didn't look back, just ran. The 50 yards to the treehouse was uphill through uneven ground. I'd walked it 100 times easy. Running with a backpack and a box of canned goods while something chased me was different. I could hear Larry behind me. Close. that wet breathing getting louder. I didn't think he could move that fast, but I was wrong. I made it to the tree and nearly dropped the box trying to climb. The ladder was wooden planks nailed to the trunk, 12 feet up to the platform. No way I could climb it holding the box. I threw it up onto the platform. Half the can spilled out, rolling across the plywood. Didn't matter. Started climbing. Larry grabbed my ankle when I was 3 rungs up. His hand was cold even through my jeans, stronger than it should be. He pulled and I nearly fell backward. I kicked hard with my other foot, caught him in the face or chest, couldn't tell which. His grip loosened. I kicked again, connected with something that felt wrong, too soft. He let go and I scrambled up the ladder fast as I could, hands slipping on the rungs, backpack banging against my spine. Pulled myself onto the platform and immediately looked down. Larry was at the base of the tree, looking up at me with those empty eyes. Mouth still hanging open. He reached for the ladder, grabbed the lowest rung with both hands, started to pull himself up. I didn't know if zombies could climb. The thought hadn't occurred to me until right then. Larry got one foot on the bottom rung, then the other. Started pulling himself up with his arms, that dragging leg making it awkward, but he was doing it. He was actually climbing. There was the aluminum baseball bat up here. Don't know why. Previous owner's kid probably left it. I grabbed it and leaned over the edge of the platform. Larry was 3 rungs up now, 4. Close enough I could smell him. Rot and copper and something else. Something sweet and rancid like meat left in the sun. I swung the bat down hard as I could. Caught him in the shoulder. He didn't react to the pain, didn't even flinch, just kept climbing. I swung again, this time aiming for his head. Connected with the side of his skull with a crack that I felt through the bat up into my arms. Larry stopped climbing. Swayed. Fell backward off the ladder and hit the ground with a sound I'll never forget. Like a sack of wet cement. He didn't get up. Didn't move at all. Just lay there at the base of the tree in a position that would be impossible for a living person, one leg bent completely the wrong way, head at an angle that made my stomach turn. I sat down hard on the platform, breathing like I'd run a marathon, still holding the bat. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely keep my grip on it. I just killed Larry. An old Larry who'd helped me jumpstart my truck last winter and who always waved when he drove past and who'd lived down the road for 15 years. I'd caved in his skull with a baseball bat. Except it wasn't really Larry anymore. That's what I kept telling myself. Whatever that thing was climbing up after me, it wasn't the person who used to be. Larry was already gone. I just stopped the thing wearing his body. Didn't make me feel any better. I sat there for maybe an hour, watching Larry's body at the base of the tree, waiting for it to move. It didn't. The wet breathing had stopped. The chest wasn't rising and falling. Dead. Really dead this time. The sun was getting lower. I'd lost track of time. Must be late afternoon, maybe 4 or 5. I started gathering the cans that had spilled, putting them back in the box. Took inventory. 8 cans of soup, 6 cans of beans, 4 cans of tuna, 2 cans of corn, 1 can of peaches, crackers, peanut butter, water bottles, first aid kit, toilet paper, some protein bars I'd forgotten I had, a flashlight, batteries. Not great, but better than nothing. I arranged everything in the corner of the treehouse, trying to be systematic about it, trying not to think about the body below. The platform was maybe 8 by 10 feet. Enough room to lie down, but not much else. The walls came up about 4 feet on 3 sides, open to the air on the 4th where the ladder was. The roof kept most of the rain out, but there were gaps where the shingles had come loose. Small window on the east side, glass intact but covered in grime. I'd cleaned it last week so I could see sunrise. As the light faded, I could see more smoke rising from town. Heard occasional sounds. Screaming still, but farther away now. Gunshots, maybe. Hard to tell. The wind was picking up, making the branches creak and the whole treehouse sway slightly. I'd always found that movement soothing before. Now it just made me aware how precarious this all was. 12 feet up a tree in a wooden box built 20 years ago. One good storm and this whole thing could come down. I tried the radio again. Same emergency broadcast. Added instruction now to boil water before drinking and avoid contact with corpses. Very helpful. Thanks. Night came on fast. I hadn't thought about light. Had the flashlight, but batteries wouldn't last forever. The moon was almost full, though, bright enough to see by once my eyes adjusted. I could make out Larry's body below, dark shape on darker ground. Could see the outline of my house through the trees. Couldn't tell if there was anything moving around it. I ate a can of soup cold, chicken noodle. Didn't taste like anything. Drank some water. Tried to sleep, but every sound made me jerk awake. The woods at night are never quiet. Things moving through underbrush, owls hunting, branches rubbing together. But now every sound could be something dead walking around. Could be another Larry looking for something to eat. Around midnight, I heard voices. Human voices. Not screaming. Talking, low and urgent. Coming from the direction of the road. I grabbed the binoculars and looked, but couldn't see anything in the dark. The voices got closer. 2 people. Maybe 3. One of them was crying. They were moving through the woods, heading east, away from town. I almost called out. Almost. And then I thought about what happened in every zombie movie I'd ever seen. Someone makes noise, attracts attention. Everyone dies. I stayed quiet. Watched the dark woods and listened to them pass maybe 50 yards north of my tree. Their voices faded. I never saw them. Don't know if they made it wherever they were going. That first night was the longest of my life. I kept the bat next to me. Kept watching Larry's body, convinced it would start moving again. It didn't. Around 3 in the morning, I finally fell asleep sitting up against the wall. Woke up at dawn with my neck screaming in pain. Saturday morning. Day 2 of the end of the world. Larry was still dead at the base of the tree. The crows had found him, 3 of them pecking at his face. I watched them for a while, feeling nothing. Should have bothered me more than it did. And the radio was still broadcasting. New message. Something about quarantine zones and evacuation routes. They listed highways to avoid. Listed cities that were under military control. Portland was gone, they said. Don't try to reach Portland. Salem was gone. Eugene was gone. Stay where you are. Help is coming. Help. Right. I rationed breakfast, 1 protein bar, some water. Needed to make supplies last. Didn't know how long I'd be up here. The toilet paper situation was going to get awkward fast. I'd have to climb down to deal with that eventually. Not while Larry's body was decomposing 15 feet away, though. I spent Saturday watching. That's all I could do. Watch the woods. Watch the road when I could see it through the trees. Watch for any movement around my house. Around noon, I saw smoke coming from the Hendersons' place. Thick black smoke. The kind from burning plastic and insulation. Heard no fire trucks. Didn't expect to. The Hendersons had 4 kids. The screaming I'd heard yesterday came from that direction. I tried not to think about it. More people passed through the woods that day. I saw them this time. 5 people moving as a group, heading east. They had backpacks, supplies. One was carrying a hunting rifle. I watched them through the binoculars. They looked scared but organized, like they had a plan. I still didn't call out. Didn't want to risk it. Didn't want anyone knowing I was here. Around 3 in the afternoon, I saw my first real horde. Not just one or two infected, dozens of them. They came up Old Mill Road from town, spreading out into the woods, moving through the trees with that same horrible jerky walk. Some were fast, some were slow. All of them were looking for something. Looking for us. The living. I pulled back from the edge of the platform, pressed myself against the back wall, barely breathing. They passed within 30 yards of my tree. I could hear them. That wet breathing multiplied by dozens. Moaning sounds, low and constant. Clicking sounds like teeth chattering. Footsteps through dead leaves. One of them stopped near Larry's body, looked down at it. Seemed confused, maybe, if those things could be confused. Prodded it with its foot. Larry didn't move. The thing lost interest and kept walking, following the others east. They passed through in waves over the next hour. I counted 63 before I stopped counting. Some I recognized. Mrs. Patterson from the grocery store. That kid who bagged groceries, Tyler something. The Methodist minister whose name I never learned. All of them dead, all of them walking. By the time they'd passed, I was shaking again. Not from cold, from the realization of what I'd seen. That was most of my town, maybe all of it. 3,000 people reduced to shambling corpses in less than 2 days. How fast had this thing spread? How many of them had been infected before symptoms showed? How many had been bitten trying to help loved ones? I checked my body for bites. Checked twice. Nothing. No scratches. No fever. I was clean. For now. Night 2 was worse than the first. The infected came back. Not in a horde this time. Just ones and twos, wandering through the dark, moaning. I could hear them all night. Sometimes close, sometimes far. Never silent. Around 2 in the morning, one stood directly under my tree for 20 minutes. Just standing there, swaying, making that clicking sound. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Finally, it wandered off. Sunday morning, I woke up to rain. Great. The roof kept most of it out, but water dripped through the gaps, pooling in the corners. My sleeping bag was damp. Everything was damp. The temperature had dropped overnight. I could see my breath. Larry's body was starting to really smell. The rain wasn't helping. I needed to do something about it, but what? Couldn't climb down and move it. Couldn't burn it. Just had to live with the smell of rotting neighbor wafting up every time the wind shifted. Breakfast was another protein bar and water. I was trying to ration, but kept eating more than I planned. Stress eating. By my count, I had maybe 5 days of food if I was careful. A week if I really stretched it. After that, I'd have to leave the treehouse to find more supplies. The thought of climbing down made my stomach hurt. Around mid-morning, the rain stopped. Sun came out, warming things up. I spread out my damp sleeping bag to dry. Checked the radio. Still broadcasting, but the message had changed. No more talk of help coming. Now it was just a list of safe zones, military installations mostly. JBLM in Washington, Camp Pendleton in California, someplace in Arizona I'd never heard of, hundreds of miles away. Might as well be on the moon. I spent Sunday improving my setup. Used some paracord I'd brought to rig a tarp over the gaps in the roof. Found an old coffee can and designated it for piss so I wouldn't have to climb down as often. Organized my supplies. Made a checklist of what I had and how long it would last. 5 days. Maybe 6. That afternoon, I saw something that made me question everything. There was movement at my house. Not infected, too purposeful. Someone was inside. I grabbed the binoculars and watched. Couple minutes later, a person came out the front door carrying a box. Alive. Moving normally. They loaded the box into a pickup truck I didn't recognize, went back inside. I should have called out, should have signaled somehow. Here was another survivor, right there, raiding my house. We could team up, safety in numbers and all that. But I didn't call out. Something about the way they moved bothered me. Too casual, not scared enough. They made 3 more trips, loading boxes into the truck, my stuff, my supplies, taking their time like they had all day. When they were done, they drove off. Didn't even look around for other survivors. Just took what they wanted and left. I added that to my mental list of things to worry about. The infected weren't the only threat. People were still people, and people got desperate. That night I heard gunshots, multiple weapons, coming from the east where all those people had been heading. It lasted maybe 10 minutes, then screaming, then silence. I didn't sleep much after that. Monday morning, day 4. The infected were still out there, but the numbers had thinned. I saw maybe a dozen pass through during the day. They seemed less focused now, just wandering. One stood in the middle of the road for hours, swaying, occasionally moaning. Eventually, it wandered into the woods and disappeared. My food situation was getting critical. I had 3 cans of soup left, 2 cans of beans, some crackers. Water was okay. I had maybe a gallon left, plus it had rained enough to collect some runoff. But food. I needed food. I started making a plan. The shed behind my house had more supplies, tools, more canned goods maybe, batteries, things I needed. It was maybe 70 yards from the tree. I'd have to go at night, move quiet. Get in, get supplies, get back. Simple. Except for the dozen ways it could go wrong. I spent Monday watching the patterns. The infected seemed more active in the morning and evening. Middle of the day they were slower, less responsive. Night was unpredictable. Sometimes they'd wander through in groups. Sometimes it would be hours between sightings. The best time would be late afternoon. After the evening increase, but before full dark. I'd have maybe an hour of good light. Enough to see what I was doing, but dim enough that I wouldn't stand out. Tuesday, day 5. I woke up hungry. Really hungry. The kind of hungry that makes your stomach cramp. I ate the last protein bar and half a can of beans. Saved the rest for later. Drank water. Told myself I'd feel better once I had food in me. I didn't feel better. Around 4 in the afternoon, I started getting ready. Put on my darkest clothes, black jeans, dark green jacket. Filled the backpack with what I'd take to the shed. Empty water bottles to refill. The first aid kit in case things went bad. Flashlight, the bat. I sat on the edge of the platform, legs dangling, watching the woods. No movement, no sounds except birds and wind. Maybe the infected had moved on. Maybe they were all heading east, following some instinct. Maybe I was worrying for nothing, that Larry's body was barely recognizable now. The crows and other scavengers had been working on it. Just a pile of torn clothes and bones. I tried not to look at it as I climbed down. The ground felt wrong under my feet, too solid, too exposed. I'd gotten used to being up high. Down here, I was vulnerable. Anything could come at me from any direction. I moved toward the house slowly. Stopped every few steps to listen. Nothing. The afternoon was quiet. Almost peaceful. Wrong kind of peaceful. The kind that comes before something bad. I made it to the shed without incident. The door was unlocked, same as I'd left it. Inside was dark. I used the flashlight, keeping it pointed down. Shelves lined the walls, tools mostly. Rake, shovel, chainsaw that hadn't worked in years. There, on the bottom shelf, 3 more cans of soup, can of chili, and a box of pasta, useless without a way to boil water. Jar of peanut butter. Score. I was loading it into the backpack when I heard the breathing. That wet, rattling sound. Close. Right outside the shed. I killed the flashlight and froze. Listened, definitely breathing. Just one of them from the sound of it. Maybe they'd passed by. Maybe they hadn't noticed the shed. The door was still open. Stupid. I'd left it open. Through the gap I could see into the yard. There. Movement. Something shambling past, heading toward the house. Former woman, hard to tell her age. Wearing a bathrobe, same one I'd seen days ago on the road. She was maybe 20 feet away, walking parallel to the shed. Hadn't seen me. I stayed absolutely still, let her pass. She reached the house, bumped into the porch railing, turned, wandered toward the driveway. And this was my chance. I could slip out, head back to the tree while her back was turned. I made it 3 steps before my foot came down on a rake. The handle swung up and hit the shelf. Not loud, but loud enough. The breathing stopped, then started again, faster. The shuffling footsteps changed direction, coming toward the shed. I didn't think, just ran. Burst out of the shed and sprinted for the tree. Heard her behind me, that breathing getting louder, faster. She was running now. They could run. I'd seen it before, but had convinced myself maybe that was unusual. No, they could all run when they wanted to. The backpack was heavy, slowing me down. I didn't drop it. Needed those supplies. 20 yards to the tree, 15. I could hear her right behind me, close enough I could smell her. That same rot smell. 10 yards, 5. I hit the ladder and started climbing, backpack banging against my shoulders. She grabbed at my leg, missed. I climbed faster. She grabbed the ladder, started pulling herself up just like Larry had. I made it to the platform and spun around with the bat. She was 3 rungs up, 4. Eyes completely white, no iris visible. Mouth open, teeth brown. Hands reaching for my feet. I swung the bat down, caught her in the face. She didn't fall. Swung again. This time she lost her grip, fell backward, hit the ground. Got up immediately, started climbing again. This was bad. I couldn't keep doing this. Couldn't knock her down every time she climbed up. Eventually I'd get tired or miss, or the bat would break. There was a coffee can full of old bolts and screws on the shelf. Previous owner's junk. I grabbed it and dumped the whole thing on her head as she climbed. Heavy metal raining down. 1 bolt hit her in the eye. She flinched, actually flinched, lost her grip and fell again. This time she didn't get up right away. Lay there twitching. I'd hit something important, maybe. After a minute she rolled over, tried to stand, couldn't. 1 leg wasn't working right. She started crawling toward the base of the tree, dragging herself with her arms. I watched her crawl. Took me a minute to recognize her. Mrs. Chen from the post office. Used to give me grief about my packages piling up. Nice lady. Had a grandson she talked about constantly. Now she was pulling herself across my yard with broken legs, moaning, trying to get to me. I looked away. Couldn't watch anymore. She crawled around the base of the tree for maybe 20 minutes. Eventually she gave up or forgot what she was doing and crawled off into the woods. I didn't see where she went. I sat on the platform, shaking for a long time after that. Eventually checked the backpack. 3 cans of soupy, can of chili, peanut butter. Same stuff I'd grabbed. Worth it. Had to be worth it. That night I ate a whole can of soup. Didn't ration it. Needed the calories, needed the comfort. Chicken noodle again. Tasted like heaven. Wednesday morning I woke up to silence. Total silence. No birds, no wind, no moaning from infected wandering through the woods. Nothing. Like someone had hit mute on the world. I looked out from the platform. Fog had rolled in overnight, thick and white, reducing visibility to maybe 30 feet. Everything beyond that was just gray shapes. The outline of my house, the dark smudge of the woods, nothing moving. The silence bothered me more than the moaning had. At least, with the moaning, I knew where they were. This was worse. They could be anywhere in the fog, and I wouldn't know until they were right on top of me. I sat back against the wall and waited for the fog to burn off. Took until almost noon. When it finally cleared, I wished it hadn't. There were bodies in my yard. Not infected. Real bodies. Dead. 3 of them. Looked like they'd been there a while, days maybe. I hadn't been able to see them from the treehouse before because of the angle and the tall grass. But now I could see them clear. 2 adults, 1 kid. The kid was small, maybe 8 or 9. They were torn apart, not much left to identify them by. I threw up, leaned over the edge of the platform and puked up the soup I'd eaten last night. Kept puking until there was nothing left. Dry heaved for a while after. When I could finally breathe again, I looked away from the bodies, focused on the woods, on anything else. But I kept seeing them in my peripheral vision, kept knowing they were there. That kid. That goddamn kid. I needed to leave. Couldn't stay here with bodies rotting in my yard. Couldn't keep living 12 feet up a tree waiting to starve, or for the infected to figure out how to climb properly. I needed a plan. Needed to get somewhere safe. Somewhere with walls and supplies and other people. The radio was still listing safe zones. JBLM was closest. Joint Base Lewis McChord, maybe 200 miles north near Tacoma. 200 miles through God knows what. Through infected territory. Through whatever was left of Portland. Impossible. But what else was I going to do? Stay here until my food ran out? Until winter came and I froze to death? Until the treehouse finally collapsed. I spent Wednesday making a plan. Real plan this time. I'd need transportation. My truck was still in the driveway. Needed to check if it still worked. Needed gas. Needed supplies for the road. Food, water, weapons. Map, first aid kit, all stuff I'd have to gather from the house and shed. Needed to do it at night. Wait until after midnight when the infected seemed less active. Load the truck, drive north, don't stop except for gas. Get to JBLM, get behind walls, get safe, simple. Yeah. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept going over the plan, kept finding holes in it. What if the truck didn't start? What if the roads were blocked? What if I ran into a horde? What if JBLM was already overrun? What if? Around 2 in the morning, I gave up on sleep. Started organizing what I'd take. Everything in the backpack, the bat, flashlight, all my food and water, first aid kit, radio. I found a road map in my pack. Oregon and Washington, couple years old, but roads didn't change that much. Studied it by flashlight. Highway 99 north to I-5. Straight shot, 200 miles. 4 hours in normal times. These weren't normal times. Thursday morning, day 7. 1 week in the treehouse, 1 week since the world ended. I was still alive. That counted for something. I spent the day watching the house, the truck, planning the route from tree to truck, 70 yards, wide open. Would take maybe 30 seconds to run it. Longest 30 seconds of my life, probably. Saw some infected during the day. Small groups, in the 2s and 3s. They seemed drawn to my house for some reason. Maybe Larry's body, maybe the bodies in the yard, maybe they could smell me up here. I didn't know, didn't matter. They'd be more active at night. I'd have to deal with them. Evening came. I ate my second to last can of soup. Tomato this time. Left the can of chili for tomorrow. If there was a tomorrow. Around 11, I heard engines. Multiple vehicles. coming from the west, heading east on Old Mill Road. I watched through the binoculars. Military vehicles, Humvees maybe, 3 of them. They drove past without stopping, headed toward whatever was left of the highway. So the military was still out there, still moving. That was something. Maybe JBLM really was secure. Maybe this plan wasn't completely insane. Midnight came. I got ready. Put on every piece of warm clothing I had. Jacket, hat, gloves. Loaded the backpack, slung it over my shoulders, picked up the bat, stood at the edge of the platform looking down. This was it. Move now or stay here forever. I climbed down. The ground felt alien after a week up in the tree. Solid, unmoving. My legs were shaky from days of sitting, from adrenaline, from fear that had become so constant, I barely noticed it anymore. The bat felt heavy in my hands. Everything felt heavy. I stood at the base of the tree listening. The night was quiet, except for distant sounds I couldn't identify. Maybe wind through broken windows. Maybe infected moaning miles away. Maybe my imagination turning every natural sound into a threat. Larry's remains were still there, mostly bones now, scattered by scavengers. I stepped over them and started toward the house. The moon was bright enough to see by, but cast everything in silver and shadow. My truck sat in the driveway, where I'd left it a lifetime ago. Dark shape against darker night, 70 yards away. I made it 20 yards before I saw movement. 3 of them, coming around the side of the house, moving slow, that characteristic shambling walk. They hadn't seen me yet. I froze, standing in the middle of the open yard like an idiot. No cover. No way back to the tree without them seeing me. The closest one turned its head toward me, stopped walking. The other 2 stopped as well. For a moment, nobody moved. We all just stood there in the moonlight, looking at each other. Then they started running. I ran for the truck. Didn't think, just moved. The backpack bounced against my spine. The bat was still in my hand, but I needed both hands free to run properly. Dropped it, heard it clatter against the ground behind me, kept running, 50 yards, 40. I could hear them behind me, that wet breathing getting closer. My lungs burned. When was the last time I'd really run? Months, probably. I was out of shape, out of breath, out of time. 30 yards, 20. The truck was right there. Keys. Where were the keys? Jacket pocket? No, jeans pocket. I slapped at my pockets while running, felt them. Right front pocket, thank God. 10 yards. I hit the driver's side door and fumbled with the keys. Hands shaking so bad I couldn't get the key in the lock. The infected were right behind me, seconds away. The key scraped against the metal around the lock. Wrong angle. Try again. It slid in. I turned it, yanked the door open, threw myself inside. Slammed the door shut just as the first one reached me. Its hands slapped against the window, face pressed against the glass. Used to be a man. Couldn't tell much more than that. It opened its mouth and moaned, teeth scraping against the glass. The other 2 arrived, started pounding on the truck. The whole vehicle rocked with the impacts. I jammed the key into the ignition, turned it. Click, 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 dead battery. Of course. The truck had been sitting for a week in cold weather. Dead battery. I turned the key again. Click, click, click. The window cracked. The first infected had found a rock or something, was smashing it against the glass. Spiderweb cracks spreading across the window. Another hit, and it would break through. I pumped the gas pedal and tried the ignition again. The engine coughed. Almost caught. Died. The infected kept pounding. The window was going to break. I could see the glass bowing inward with each impact. Come on, come on, come on. I was talking out loud, begging the truck one more time. I turned the key. The engine coughed, sputtered, caught, roared to life. I threw it in reverse and gunned it. The infected hanging on the door fell away. I backed up fast, too fast, nearly hit the tree, slammed on the brakes, put it in drive. The 3 infected were already coming after me. I floored it. The truck shot forward. I aimed for the driveway, missed, went over the lawn instead. Felt the bump as I hit something. Didn't look back to see what. Made it to the driveway and turned hard, tires throwing gravel. Old Mill Road was right there, empty, dark. I turned north and drove. My hands were still shaking, heart pounding so hard I could hear it over the engine. I kept checking the rearview mirror, expecting to see them chasing me. Saw nothing, just darkness and the red glow of my taillights. I made it maybe 2 miles before I had to pull over, hands shaking too bad to drive. I sat there on the side of the road, engine running, trying to breathe. I'd made it. I was out. I was mobile. I had a chance. The gas gauge read half full. Enough to get maybe 100 miles if I was lucky. Not enough to reach JBLM. I'd need to find gas somewhere. The thought of stopping, of being vulnerable while I filled the tank, made my stomach clench. But no choice. Couldn't get anywhere on half a tank. I pulled back onto the road and kept driving north. The headlights cut through the dark, illuminating maybe 50 feet of road ahead. Now everything beyond that was unknown. I passed houses, dark and empty. Passed a few cars abandoned on the roadside. Didn't see any infected. Didn't see anything moving at all. Around 3 in the morning, I reached the outskirts of Richfield, or what was left of it. The main street was a mess. Cars everywhere, some crashed into buildings, some just stopped in the middle of the road. Bodies everywhere too. I tried not to look. Had to weave between vehicles, driving slow, watching for movement. The gas station was on the far side of town. Lucky's Gas and Mini Mart. I'd stopped there 1,000 times for coffee and lottery tickets. Now the windows were smashed out and the pumps were dark. No power. Of course, no power. How was I supposed to pump gas without power? I sat in the truck trying to think. There had to be a way. Manual pump, maybe. Something. I couldn't give up now. Not after getting this far. I got out of the truck slowly. Bat was gone, dropped it back at the house. No weapons except a screwdriver I found in the glove box. Better than nothing. I approached the gas pumps carefully. Listened. No sounds except wind whistling through broken glass. The Mini Mart door was hanging open. Inside was dark. I used my flashlight, swept it across the interior. Shelves knocked over, supplies scattered everywhere. No bodies that I could see. No infected. I moved inside, stepping over broken glass and spilled motor oil. The back office door was locked. I kicked it. Flimsy door gave way on the second kick. Inside was small, cramped. Desk covered in paperwork. Filing cabinet. There, on the wall. Electrical panel. I opened it. Rows of breakers, all switched off, and I started flipping them on. Nothing happened. Dead power lines. The whole grid was down. I stood there staring at the useless breakers, trying not to panic. Think. There had to be another way. Underground tanks. The gas was still down there, just needed a way to get it up. Siphon, maybe. Did I know how to siphon gas? Seen it in movies. Put a hose in the tank, suck on the other end until gas comes through, don't swallow any, let it drain into a container. I searched the Mini Mart. Found a length of rubber hose in the back, maybe garden hose, looked like it would work. Found some empty gas cans behind the counter. This could work. I went back outside. Picked a car at random, newer sedan, abandoned near the pumps. Popped the gas cap. Fed the hose in until I felt resistance. Put the other end in my mouth and sucked. The taste hit me immediately. Gasoline. Chemical burn on my tongue and throat. I spat, coughed, nearly vomited. Got the hose into the gas can just as fuel started flowing. It worked. It actually worked. I filled 3 gas cans this way, siphoning from abandoned cars. Took maybe an hour. My mouth tasted like poison. My throat burned. But I had gas, enough to fill my tank and have extra. I was pouring the last can into my truck when I heard the sound. Moaning, multiple voices, coming from down the street. I looked up and saw them. Dozens of them. A horde moving down Main Street toward me. Attracted by the sound of my truck engine, maybe. Attracted by the smell of living human. Didn't matter why. They were coming. I threw the empty gas can aside, jumped in the truck, and peeled out. The horde was maybe 100 yards away. Close enough to see individuals. Close enough to see them start to run. I drove north out of town, pressing the accelerator to the floor. The truck wasn't built for speed, but it did okay. The infected couldn't keep up. I watched them shrink in the rearview mirror until they disappeared. Highway 99 was in worse shape than I expected. Cars everywhere. Some burned out, just metal shells. Some piled up in massive crashes. I had to drive off-road sometimes, cutting through fields and parking lots to get around obstacles. The going was slow. 20 miles an hour when I was lucky, sometimes slower. Dawn came around 6. I'd been driving for 4 hours and made maybe 60 miles. At this rate, it would take forever to reach JBLM. The truck was running rough too. Check engine light had come on. Something wrong with it. Didn't know what. It wasn't a mechanic. Just had to hope it held together. I stopped around 7 at a rest area. Needed to piss and eat something. The rest area was deserted. Bathrooms locked. I pissed behind a dumpster. Ate the last can of chili cold, standing next to the truck, watching the road. Saw nothing. No infected, no other survivors. Just empty highway stretching north. I was back on the road by 7:30. The check engine light was still on. The truck was making a new sound now, clicking from somewhere under the hood. Not good. I kept driving anyway. What choice did I have? Around noon, I saw Portland in the distance. Smoke. That's what I saw first. Massive columns of black smoke rising from the city. Miles away but visible. The whole skyline was burning. I could smell it even from this distance. Chemical smell mixed with wood smoke. That's the smell of a city dying. The highway went right through Portland. No way around it. I checked the map. Could try to go east, loop around through the Columbia Gorge. Would add 100 miles. The truck wouldn't make it. I'd have to go through. The outskirts weren't too bad. Suburban sprawl, empty strip malls and housing developments. Abandoned cars, but the road was mostly clear. I made decent time. Then I hit the bridges. The Willamette River cut through downtown Portland. Multiple bridges crossing it. The first one I tried was blocked. Cars piled up on the span, some kind of massive wreck. I turned around, tried the next bridge. Same thing. The third bridge was on fire. Actually on fire. Flames shooting up from the roadway, smoke pouring into the sky. I sat there looking at my options. None of them good. Could try to go east after all. Could abandon the truck and walk across one of the bridges. Could try to find a boat. All stupid ideas. Then I saw it. Railroad bridge. Running parallel to the burning bridge about a quarter-mile downriver. Looked intact. Narrow, but maybe wide enough for a truck if I was careful. I drove toward it. Had to go through downtown to reach it. Drove past buildings with windows blown out. past bodies in the streets, past fires still burning, saw infected everywhere. They noticed the truck, started following it, started running after it. I pushed the accelerator down and the truck responded sluggishly. The clicking sound under the hood got louder. Something was definitely wrong. But we were moving. That's what mattered. The railroad bridge access was blocked by a fence. Chain link with barbed wire on top. I didn't slow down. Hit the fence at 40 miles an hour. The fence posts snapped. Chain link wrapped around the front of the truck, dragging. The truck bounced over railroad ties, suspension, screaming. The bridge was narrow. Railroad tracks down the middle, maybe 6 feet of clearance on either side. I centered the truck on the tracks and drove. Wheels bounced over the ties. The whole truck shook. Behind me, I could see infected reaching the bridge. Starting across, running. Halfway across, the engine coughed, sputtered. The clicking turned into knocking. Not good. Not good at all. I pressed the gas pedal harder. The truck responded for a few seconds, then started losing power. No, 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 come on. Just a little farther. 3/4 of the way across, the engine died completely. The truck coasted to a stop right there on the bridge. I turned the key. Click, click, click. Nothing. The infected were coming, maybe 30 of them on the bridge behind me. Running full speed. I had maybe 20 seconds. I grabbed the backpack, threw open the door, and ran. Left the truck sitting there on the tracks. Ran toward the far side of the bridge. My legs were already tired from days of inactivity. The backpack was heavy. I stumbled, caught myself, kept running. Made it to the far end of the bridge and jumped down to the street. Landed hard, rolled, felt something in my ankle twist. Pain shot up my leg. I got up anyway, limped forward. The infected were coming off the bridge behind me. There, alley between buildings. I ducked into it, ran deeper into the shadows, found a dumpster and wedged myself behind it. Held my breath. Listened. The infected ran past the alley entrance, kept going down the street, chasing the movement they'd seen. They didn't think to check the alley, just kept running. I stayed behind the dumpster for maybe an hour. My ankle throbbed. When I finally looked at it, I could see swelling. Not broken, probably just sprained. Could still walk on it. Barely. I needed to get out of Portland. The truck was gone. I was on foot now. JBLM was still 150 miles away. Impossible distance on a bad ankle with infected everywhere. I needed a new plan. I spent the rest of the day hiding and moving through Portland, stayed in alleys, avoided main streets, saw infected everywhere, but most of them seemed focused on other things. Fighting each other sometimes, feeding on bodies. A few times I saw them just standing still, swaying, like they'd forgotten what they were doing. Around sunset, I found a sporting goods store. Windows smashed, but some inventory left. I grabbed a better backpack, a knife, a real knife, hunting knife with a 6-inch blade. Found some energy bars that hadn't been looted, water bottles, a warmer jacket, boots that fit better than my old ones. I was looking for a weapon, something better than a knife, when I heard the voice. "You move and I'll shoot you." I froze, turned slowly. Man standing in the doorway, maybe 50, hard to tell in the dim light, holding a shotgun pointed at my chest. He looked tired, scared, but the gun was steady. "I'm not infected," I said. "Just looking for supplies." "Everyone's just looking for supplies." His voice was rough, like he'd been breathing smoke. "You can't until they're looking to kill someone for what they got." "I don't want trouble, just passing through." "Nobody just passes through Portland anymore. You stay, you die." Infected get you, or the fires get you, or you starve. I'm trying to get north. JBLM heard it safe there. He laughed. Short, bitter sound. JBLM? Yeah, good luck with that. You know something I don't? I know the roads are fucked. I know there's hordes between here and there. I know people tried to get there and didn't make it back. He lowered the gun slightly. But hey, maybe you'll be lucky. You staying here? Got a place, underground? Safe enough for now? You want advice? Find somewhere similar. Hole up. Wait it out. Wait for what? This isn't getting better. Maybe not. But it ain't getting worse neither. The infected, they're slowing down. Wearing out? Give it a few weeks. Maybe they'll all just stop moving. Maybe we can rebuild. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to think there was a future where we could just wait this out. But I'd seen too much. The infected weren't slowing down. They were spreading. And staying in one place meant eventually running out of supplies. Eventually making a mistake. I'm going north, I said. He shrugged. Your funeral. But hey, you want company? That surprised me. Thought you were staying? Changed my mind. Been alone for 6 days. Going crazy. You seem like you got a plan. I like plans. He stuck out his hand. Doug. I shook it. Alex. All right, Alex. Let's get the hell out of Portland. We left at dawn. Doug knew the city better than I did. Led me through neighborhoods I'd never seen. We avoided the main roads. Moved quiet. And saw infected but kept our distance. Around noon, we reached the northern edge of the city. The suburbs here were burning, whole streets on fire. We had to detour east, skirting the flames. The heat was intense even from a block away. There, Doug pointed. Bridge over the Columbia. If we can get across, we're into Washington. Clearer roads from there. The bridge was intact, but the road leading to it was packed with abandoned cars. We'd have to walk across. A mile of open bridge with no cover. If there were infected on it, we'd be trapped. We go at night, Doug said. Less visible. We holed up in a house near the bridge and waited for dark. The house had been looted already, but we found some canned fruit in the back of a kitchen cabinet. Shared it between us. First real food I'd had in days that wasn't cold soup or protein bars. That you got family? Doug asked. Sister in Boise. You? Had a wife. She didn't make it. He didn't elaborate. I didn't ask. We sat in silence for a while. Outside the sun was setting. The fires made the sky orange and red, beautiful in a terrible way. You think JBLM's really safe? I asked. I think anywhere's safer than here. And I think sitting still is how you die. So, yeah, we keep moving north. Night came. We approached the bridge carefully. Doug had the shotgun. I had the knife. Not much against a horde, but better than nothing. The bridge was empty. No infected, no people. Just hundreds of abandoned cars and the sound of the river below. We walked down the center line, moving as fast as we dared in the darkness. Halfway across, I heard something. Scraping sound, coming from inside one of the cars. We stopped. Doug raised the shotgun. The scraping came again, then silence. We kept moving, made it another 100 yards. The scraping started again, behind us now. Multiple sources, things moving inside the cars, getting out. Run, Doug said. We ran. The scraping turned into moaning, into running footsteps. They'd been hiding in the cars, waiting. Smart, too smart. The end of the bridge was maybe a quarter mile ahead. We weren't going to make it. There were too many of them. I could hear them right behind us. Then I heard something else. Engine. Vehicle approaching from the Washington side of the bridge. Headlights cut through the darkness. Big vehicle. Military, maybe. The vehicle stopped at the end of the bridge. Spotlight came on, blinding bright. Voice over a loudspeaker. "Get down, now!" We dropped flat. Gunfire erupted over our heads. Automatic weapons, sustained fire. The infected behind us didn't stand a chance. The firing went on for maybe 30 seconds, then stopped. Silence, except for ringing in my ears. "Get up! Move to the vehicle, now!" We ran. The spotlight followed us, helped us see. We made it to the end of the bridge and the vehicle. It was a Humvee. Soldiers inside. Real U.S. military. "Get in," one of them yelled. We climbed into the back. The Humvee was already moving before we'd even closed the door, driving fast away from the bridge. "You two just come from Portland?" the soldier driving asked. "Yeah," Doug said. "You're lucky. We're pulling back from the bridges tomorrow. Another few hours and you'd have been stuck." "Where are you taking us?" "Safe zone, 50 miles north. You been bit? Scratched? Any wounds?" We showed them. Clean, no bites. They relaxed slightly. The safe zone was a high school, surrounded by chain-link fence topped with razor wire. Guard towers at the corners, soldiers patrolling. Maybe 200 civilians inside. They processed us. Checked for bites again. Gave us food. Real food, hot soup and bread, clean water. They had cots set up in the gymnasium. We got assigned spots. I lay down on the cot and felt the tension drain out of me for the first time in a week. Safe, behind walls, with other people, with soldiers. Doug was on the next cot over. "We made it," he said. "Yeah, we made it." I slept for 12 hours straight. When I woke up, there was sunlight coming through the gymnasium windows, people moving around, talking, almost normal. A soldier came by with information. They were organizing convoys north to JBLM. Military and civilian vehicles. Safety in numbers. Next convoy was leaving in 2 days. We could be on it if we wanted. Of course we wanted. Those 2 days felt like a lifetime. But they were good days. We had food, water, safety. I met other survivors, heard their stories. Everyone had lost someone. Everyone had barely made it out alive. But we were here. We'd survived. The convoy left on a clear morning. 15 vehicles. Humvees in front and back, civilian cars and trucks in the middle. We rode in a pickup with 4 other people. The roads north were clearer. The military had been through, clearing routes, taking out infected. We made it to JBLM in 6 hours. The base was massive, surrounded by concrete barriers and wire. Guard towers every 100 yards. Thousands of people inside. Military personnel, civilians, that's refugees from all over the Pacific Northwest. They processed us again, gave us ID cards, assigned us to barracks, showed us where to get food, water, medical care. It was organized, structured, safe. That first night at JBLM, I stood outside the barracks looking up at the sky. Stars were visible, no smoke, no fires, just stars. Doug came out and stood next to me. Hard to believe it's only been 2 weeks. 2 weeks since everything ended. Or since everything started, depends how you look at it. I thought about that, about the treehouse, about Larry, about the bodies in my yard, about running through Portland, about barely making it out alive a dozen times. "We're going to make it," I said. "We're going to survive this." Doug nodded. "Yeah, I think we are." And standing there, under the stars, behind concrete walls with soldiers keeping watch and thousands of other survivors trying to rebuild something from the ashes, I actually believed it. The world had ended, but we were still here. Still fighting, still alive. Thanks for watching, guys. I will be back with another story.